Hey, it's Jeremy from Jeremy.net. I am a comic book artist, writer, creator, and I share my creative process here with you online. If you'd like to support this channel, get additional bonus live streams twice a month, like Art Book Study Group, which is coming up this week, you can become a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/Jeremy. That's patreon.com/GERIMI. If you'd like to get a free digital sketchbook, sign up for my newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. Send out a monthly newsletter. It contains work in progress animated GIFs, blog posts, and when I've got new books coming out, new artwork, work in progress animated GIFs, kind of showing my creative process, all that and more at my newsletter. It's newsletter.jeremy.net. And if you would like to purchase physical copies of my comics, or if you read digitally on Kindle or Comixology, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. I'll forward you to my Amazon author page. You can pick up books like my first graphic novel, Eye of the Gods. It's a book that I am the writer and artist of. It's about a man who is cursed with visions he cannot control, psychological thriller. Or you can pick up my most recent project, Morning Star. Volumes 1 and 2 are both available. It is the story of Lucifer's fall from heaven, told as a Western. So you've got both volumes available. It's got each book contains 4 issues of comics, and it also has extensive back matter, script excerpts, thumbnails, deep dive into my creative process, some of the references I use, all that and more at amazon.jeremy.net. And also recently added to my channel, if you go to the homepage, there's a flip through of all my books. You can just kind of flip through, take a look, see what's there, and what I've see what the finished book looks like. All right. So also, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody who's watching. Stay afterwards. Before diving into some drawing, let's see here. Already some comments in the chat. Dr. Thomas Elliott in the chat. How you doing? Amar is here, saying still have to pick up volume 2 to support. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And yes, he has had the rest for quite some time. And I greatly appreciate that, Amar. Thank you so much. For everyone who is a Patreon subscriber, this Wednesday, Art Book Study Group is still on. Even though we're almost up to New Year's, it's going to be Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So convert that to whatever time zone you're in. We'll have that, our end of the year Art Book Study Group. So it'll be nice to get in there, get a wrap up of what we've learned and covered so far. Let's see here. And yes, Amar shares the message. I'm sure he would like me to share it with all the rest of you. Happy holidays with you and to all of our audience. I will share with you, I am having a very Kirby Christmas because before getting into drawing, I'll show you, oh Christ, this thing weighs a ton. So I got 2 Jack Kirby gifts. One from my very, very good friend, Carl Altstetter. He got me the Jack Kirby's Fantastic Four Artisan Edition. So this is the IDW books that they make where it's got, high-res reproductions from the original comic book pages. So it's got quite a bit from Jack Kirby's early run on Fantastic Four. So this is beautiful. I'm really enjoying digging into this. And then the other thing this is the thing that weighs a ton. My wife got me not the Artisan Edition, but the Artist's Edition of Jack Kirby's Mr. Miracle. So I think this has like 7 issues of Mr. Miracle in it. And this thing, you can see in comparison to my head how big this is. This is the size of like the original art boards, which, I don't know for sure because Kirby also sometimes worked even bigger than the standard 11x17. So these original pages might be even bigger than that. But this book is friggin' huge and it's amazing. And it's like having some original Kirby pages to flip through. So it's a very Kirby Christmas in our household this year. I'm lucky to have these. Okay. All right. So that said, let's get into some artwork. Yes, Amar says, cool gifts for a comic book artist. Yes, these are are perfect. I have to find some other stuff that I'm going to have to get rid of because we generally have an unspoken agreement in my house that every time we bring new books into the house, I have to get rid of some because my library has overgrown our house. So let's switch over to the iPad, and we are back to working on the Medusa series. I'm still doing some master studies kind of in the background on the side, but I feel like I've tortured you enough with those. I'll still do master studies in the future, but for now, I thought let me get back to actually trying to push and finalize. Maybe it's not even finalizing this piece, but the idea here is that the very first thumbnail is the one that kind of captures the tone and feel that I want. But I noticed that I've had a bad habit over the last few illustrations I've made. I feel like I've actually moved forward too soon. Like I had a concept that worked, but there were elements that needed to be kind of fleshed out. And in this case, it really is the feeling of the torso and the anatomy. It just feels just sort of floating there. And so I've just been sitting doing some studies and trying to lock that down. So I guess really, and I think the approach that I'm really taking here is, let me lock this grid layer. Is I've just been going through, and what I'm really trying to nail down is the relationship between the head, the torso, and the limbs. So I've just been drawing iterations of that. Let's see here. And it's an odd thing in that I've got a thumbnail in that first one, which captures exactly what I wanted to capture. And yet it's the subtleties of the figure's gesture that I feel are sort of off. And one of the things that I was telling myself in getting ready to come and do this live stream, I was thinking about this last night because, I don't really do a lot of planning. I may decide what I'm going to work on, but in terms of actually having a whole agenda or doing a lot of prep work, these live streams are pretty much, I sit down, I have whatever I'm working on, I turn on the camera and I just keep working and talk to you guys. But I was thinking about the fact that this piece doesn't feel like it's ready to move forward yet in terms of picking a particular thumbnail that I'm like, okay, I've worked out whatever it is that I have not worked out in that very first thumbnail. I still haven't got it yet. And the question was, well, if I haven't figured that out yet, then what is the point of me drawing now? And I've realized that I need to give myself permission to wander. And I've talked about this in other live streams. Like I actually may have mentioned this in the Patreon live stream, so I may not have said it here. But the idea of giving myself permission to treat anatomy kind of like a labyrinth to wander in, and just discover, figure out what's going on there. Like there is a definite path there, but give myself the freedom to say, all right, I don't know exactly where I'm going. Let me wander a little bit. And that's what I feel like I need to do with this piece, is just say, all right, I don't know exactly why it's not working. Or rather, it's more the fact that when I look at it analytically and I just say, all right, I can tell that the tilt of the rib cage in that original thumbnail doesn't really line up with what the shoulders are doing. Like if I think about it in terms of just looking at it and my typical self-analysis of what is and isn't working in a piece, that doesn't seem to be helping me right now, because the challenge I'm having is getting how the piece feels to match how it's constructed. Because I'll tell you what is working right now in that first thumbnail is the feeling. The thumbnail feels exactly like I want the piece to feel. But I had that same thing with the previous Medusa piece I did, where the feeling was all there, but the structure wasn't. So I said, all right, let me learn from that lesson and try to get the feeling here. See, I see Elia in the chat. He says, yo, brother, nice artwork. Thanks for popping in, and thank you. And Amanda's here. Thanks for rolling through. Yeah. So how I want the piece to feel, I've already solved. I have that. I have a thumbnail that feels exactly correct. And that's the thing that tripped me up in previous versions. Because I think I'm actually pretty good at getting a thumbnail to feel the way I want it to feel. In fact, I would say that the feeling part, the emotional expression, the evocative nature of art, when you draw those little sketches that you're like, oh wait, that one sketch where you end up having to draw that same thumbnail like 10 you try to get what you captured in the thumbnail in that final piece. You may redraw that final piece 10 times, whereas the thumbnail just nailed it. I'm pretty good at getting that feeling in the thumbnail. Keeping that feeling throughout a finished piece is the thing that I struggle with. So this approach now, where I've got like one thumbnail that feels right, and then 7 others in various states of sketching, instead of going through and I could very easily just turn this layer off and then start a new layer and just keep going and going and going until I get it the way I want. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep these 8, and I'm going to keep reworking through these 8 until not that I'm necessarily going to redraw every single one, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this last one that I'm doing until I feel like I've explored what there is to explore about. And then I'm going to move to whichever one is the weakest one, erase that one, and say, all right, well, what am I still missing? What am I trying to figure out and nail down anatomically in this piece? So Amar has a question, and he says, are you going to do a show like last year to talk about next year's goals and a recap of this past year? You know what? I wasn't planning on it, but hell, we're doing it now. We're drawing. I ain't got nothing else on my mind. Let's do the recap now. So I will tell you, I had 2 big goals. I had 3 goals, and I only accomplished one of the goals. I had 3 goals this year, and I only accomplished one. So my 3 goals, and I haven't gone back and looked at the old video. So if my goals are something else on there, you can feel free to call me out on it, because I'm just spitballing here. But from what I can remember, my goals for 2021 were to finish and publish not just the final issue, but the final volume of Morningstar. They were to get started on my next comic and to launch my first Kickstarter campaign. And obviously, I have not launched a Kickstarter campaign, and I have not started my next comic. Now, on one hand, I will say that in terms of completing Morningstar, the actual volume, the collected edition, I spent a long time trying to get a cover that I was happy with. I still may change the cover to volume 2. So if you guys, it'll go this way, if that's one of the things I'm going to do probably early next year when after I finish this Medusa piece, I'm going to put up a poll. I did a thumbnail for a possible alternate cover of Morningstar. If I like that and you guys are like, yeah, that cover is definitely better, then that'll be the next thing that I draw. In which case, the people who have already purchased volume 2, that cover is going to become a collector's item because that version is going to go away. The guts of the book will be exactly the same, but I am very seriously thinking about doing a cover for a new cover for volume 2. Before you people freak out, the cover for volume 1, this isn't the original cover. In fact, I've got it over on my bookcase here, and I'm going to switch back to the big camera so you guys can see me. All right. So let's see here. Amar also mentions in terms of goals, there is another goal to work on your own pieces of art instead of starting another comic. Yes, yeah, exactly. And he says, so you can focus on personal art, you can finish faster. All true, all true. And that is here's the thing. This piece right now is me working on doing more standalone art pieces and me not getting them done very quickly. And I could crank out a finished. This is it. We'll come. We're gonna put a pin in that thing about personal art pieces because that ties directly into the piece I'm working on now. But the idea of how do I control this thing? Here we go. The idea of me going back and redoing the cover for Morningstar Volume 2. So this is the current cover to Morningstar Volume 1, and I'm very happy with it. Hang on, I have to turn off my my ring light because it's creating too much of a glare here. So much glare. It'd be easier if I had the controls hanging out so that I could actually reach them without pulling all that down. Yeah, okay. So this is the current cover to Morningstar Volume 1. I'm very, very happy with this cover. This was the original cover. I don't need to see my face. This one is the original cover to Morningstar Volume 1. And the premise of the original cover, it's Lucifer riding a horse, and he's got a lasso. The lasso is making a flaming pentagram. So still has the thing of him being, having a split pentagram behind him, silhouetting him. But the problem I found was that the original one that I did was a little too impersonal. We're too far from Lucifer. You can't really see that he is a person of color. The composition, the fact that I had the title of the actual, like the text is so large in this first version where you've got the logo is still the same, but then having the actual title of the volume really large. I was trying to go for that thing like a lot of contemporary fiction has it, where the title of the series and the title of the volume is the big thing, and the imagery underneath is more just something kind of iconic. But the fact that you don't even get the full feeling of what's happening with the horse, like this feels like this would need to be a full splash with no text in order to properly illustrate this and really make it feel as dramatic as I want it to feel. The composition just didn't lend itself to the book cover the way that I composed it in my mind. And the important thing was that a lot of people really responded to the fact that it was a Western with a person of color in it. And I thought that's another thing that I was like, all right, well, this feels more like a portrait of a supernatural black cowboy. And that was the thing I really wanted to correct on this, because in here, he just looks dark. You can't necessarily tell that he is black just from looking at this cover. So that was the main reason for redoing it. Now, in this cover, yes, you can tell he's a black man. He's got serpent around him. He's got angel wings. You can tell it's all of the things that I want it to be, but it is a wider shot. It's not as intimate. And I really, really like this image as a standalone piece. But I feel like I want my covers to pull people in a little bit more and feel a little bit more intimate with the characters. And this is something that I need to spend more time just looking at When you see a full shot of a Superman comic or a Batman comic, when you see the full body shot, that's what a lot of people love on a cover. I mean, hell, this Jack Kirby, Mr. Miracle, you know, it's a full scene. It's full body Mr. Miracle strapped to a rocket that's launching, you know. I mean, of course, it draws you in also because it's massive. It would look, you know, not necessarily the same on a small page there, but that works better when you're dealing with characters that are a little bit more iconic. And maybe that speaks to me needing to push my skills as a character designer. That also would be a valid criticism of my work. But that said, I think when you're dealing with something like Superman, Batman, all of these characters, Wonder Woman, all of these characters that people just know on sight or know them by their silhouette, I think it's easier to do things where you have more of a full body pose. Like when you do Nightwing, you can do Nightwing in a full silhouette and then just do the bird in blue or red, depending on the costume version, yes. But you can have a character in a full silhouette and just have that dash of the bird shape on his chest, and you know it's Nightwing. My characters don't necessarily have that, and part of that they're not superhero characters in superhero costumes. But again, part of that also comes down to character design and how to make characters that are recognizable with very limited information. So let's see here. All right, let's continue going back into our conversation. Let's see here. So the thing that we mentioned about me doing more personal artwork. Now, Amar did mention, I don't know how many you planned on finishing. They said we did more than a few. You did more than I did, so I salute you. You did quite a few. Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like I actually only did like 2 or 3 because I know I did the samurai one. I did the previous Medusa one. I think I've maybe done 1 or 2 other finished pieces. But you know what? When you were working on your NFT project, you were cranking out finished illustrations. So I mean, you were not slacking. I think, Amar, you've completed a lot more finished illustrations than I have. Now, the specific thing about me finishing more pieces and finishing them faster is that I tend to flip back and forth between 2 different approaches. The approach of spontaneous and let the piece be whatever it's going to be, and meticulous where I'm planning and processing and trying to do everything. So I'm going to pull back out of my gallery here and let's go back to, that was another thing I did. I did that, I did a Doctor Strange piece for my buddy Carl Altstetter, and this is just the layouts for the piece right there. That was something else I did this past year. The finished piece was one that I did in ink. But anyway, where am I? Yes. So I stand behind this Gorgon piece. I'm proud of it. I think it's a good illustration. Well, I think it's an okay illustration. The fact of the matter is I actually plan to go back and redraw this piece because I'm just not 100% satisfied with it. And this piece is more of me just sitting down. I've got the idea. Let me try and execute it. So this is what happens when I just go for it and I have a piece. And even this, if you guys can remember from the videos when I was working on it, I still spent quite a lot of time. It took several sessions to get through finishing it. But it came down to the fact that there was just that's the interesting thing in terms of being an artist. Pardon me, I've got to sneeze. Excuse me. It's one thing to be a perfectionist. It's another thing to realize when a piece isn't there yet. So there's something missing from that other Medusa piece that I was showing you. It's not just, oh, I'm not happy. Like, it's not just a simple. It's one thing to not be satisfied with your work. It's another thing to realize that it can be better and you didn't do better. That's more of where I'm pursuing with that. And that one, I didn't do a ton of thumbnails. So this one, now I'm trying the whole, let me do more. Let me do more thumbnails. Let me really try and figure out what it is that's not working before I go into detail. And when I finish this piece, after I do the finished piece, who knows? I think that it is a very valid approach to simply say, I'm not going to look back in terms of me going back and doing that other piece. I think it's very valid to just say, all right, keep making pieces, keep moving forward, keep doing new pieces. And if it's not good, take what you learn from the one you just finished and make the next one better. I think that that's a very valid approach. I go back and forth because when I see a piece and it's not what I want it to be, I think like most of us, my instinct is, we'll go back and fix it. So who knows? Maybe I should do a few more different pieces before coming back to try and fix that other one. And there's also that question of, like I mentioned before, doing that new Morningstar cover, which, obviously I need to say one thing at a time here, because I already in this conversation, I'm going like 10 different directions at one time. Let's see here. Amar says, you did the Alice in Wonderland prints this year, right? No, I did those last year. I remember because I was working on them during my lunch break back when I was still in the office at work. I am very sure I finished the entire series back in 2020. I'm trying to think which one was the last one. It was the Mad Hatter. There were 2 Queen of Hearts. There was the Mad Hatter, the Cheshire Cat. I can't remember the fourth one. Mad Hatter, Cheshire Cat, White Rabbit. Yeah. All of those I did. All of those I did in 2020. So it might feel like see, that's the thing. For me, my whole creative process ends up becoming like this weird time machine where I'm just like, it seems like I'm working on stuff forever. Even the Morningstar. I mean, Morningstar is a perfect example of that. I mean, I was working on this 8-issue series. It really is something that I should have finished up, like, even if I did 2 issues a year, that would be 4 years to complete an 8-issue series. And that thing took me almost a decade to finish. And again, working a full-time day job, I'm not shitting on that. That definitely eats up the majority of my time. But I would like to be faster as an independent artist, even with working a day job. Now, that also brings me to one of the other things that we're talking about in terms of goals, is starting a Kickstarter. And I've just seen Kickstarter as really a platform that's become a real serious distribution method for independent creators. A chance to reach out to people, bring your work directly to them, and it's not just, oh, I'm just making a comic and money's going to roll in. It's a chance to give people to validate whether this is something you really should be doing or not. You're putting it out there, and the audience tells you whether you've got a product that they really love, kind of love, or they're just like, nah, we're not backing this. Now, I will say also that on one hand, I think that's a great built-in feature. The fact that Kickstarter campaigns, basically, it's a process. It's a constant validation process in terms of whether your campaign funds or not. But for artistic campaigns, particularly comic books, it's usually not a great idea to run your campaign before your book is completed, before it's written and drawn, and if not ready to go to press immediately, because there's so many campaigns of all kinds, not just comics and art books, but so many campaigns that end up like funded or highly funded, and then they don't deliver for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever. And I've watched people whose opinion I respect, and whose creativity I respect, and I've watched them have this albatross hanging over their neck, and they're just like, oh God, I'm late on the campaign. I gotta deliver this. And I don't want to be. I realize I just left that Alice in Wonderland comment staying on the screen. And I see you've got a comment there. Let's see. I'll come back and check the Amar said bless you for when I sneezed. Says, I don't know how to use Bridgman's book. Can you suggest on how to learn? And does Bridgman's book suit for animator? Yes, it does suit for animators. I have videos. If you go to the search box, not at the top of YouTube, but just the search box on my channel, you can type in Bridgman, or if you just type in the regular search box, Gerimi, and then Bridgman, I have a couple of videos where I do Bridgman studies. And the way that I study Bridgman is I copy his drawings, but there are two ways to copy. The first way to copy is the way most people copy, which is to try and create a line-for-line replica of whatever that you are studying, whether it's a painting, a drawing, what have you. That's the first way. The second way is to draw for understanding. And what that means is you look at the Bridgman drawing and you analyze it. You don't just look at it. When you look at a Bridgman drawing, sometimes you have to try and figure out, well, what am I looking at? Why is this shape boxy? Why is this shape round? Why does this form twist here and turn there? And what you do is you sit down with a piece of paper next to that, and you may not just draw it once. You may draw that same drawing 5 different times, but you are drawing to try to understand what he is trying to describe in terms of volumes and shapes and twists and energy. So you're actually analyzing his drawings on paper, almost as if you were taking an animal in a biology class and you were dissecting it. You do that with the drawing. That's how you study Bridgman. At least that's my opinion of how to study Bridgman. And like I said, you can see examples of that in my channel. So that would be my suggestion to you. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name properly, because I've never seen that name before. Because it looks like might be a name, or it might be like a meme. So if I'm pronouncing it horribly, definitely let me know. And you also ask, do you read the text inside the book or learn by action? Both. You definitely do both. There are some places where Bridgman's text can be a little bit difficult to understand. I think when it comes to actually understanding fundamentals, there are other teachers that I think describe a little bit better. But you can definitely understand Bridgman through the text. What you want to do is you want to read the text, and if it helps you understand the drawings better, then read what he says and try to apply that to what you're working on. But if you find it makes it more confusing, then you can ignore the text. You really can just draw. The real knowledge in Bridgman is in his drawings, in his understanding of volume and form. In fact, some of the anatomy can be difficult because his books are older books from the early 20th century, and there's certain muscles that contemporary people in the 21st century, we use different names for some of the muscles. And I found that there were times when I was drawing from Bridgman and I had a very difficult time understanding because I was looking for muscles and I'm like, I don't know this muscle. I don't see this muscle. And I would break down, I would grab 5 different anatomy books and be trying to find the muscles he was talking about, only to realize that he was just using an old name that people don't use anymore. So that can be difficult as well. I don't know if you have the budget for multiple art books, but if you do, anyone who is a Patreon subscriber will not be surprised at this. I will recommend Walt Reed's The Figure. This is a book that we've been doing for my art book study group on Patreon, and we've been going through this book like section by section and doing sketches and drawing and studying from this book. And there is a free video, because normally these are just for our Patreon subscribers, but I did put a free video from the art book study group session in the public YouTube channel. So you can go and look on my channel for Walt Reed The Figure, and you'll find the video of drawing from this. I recommend this book even over Bridgman in terms of, I think that is one of the best books on understanding the basic fundamentals of learning how to draw for an animator especially, but in terms of breaking the figure down into conceptual volumes and forms, then refining those forms, adding anatomy, and making a finished drawing. Like the process that is on the cover to this book is basically what the book teaches. The book teaches you how to do this. I'm still studying from it, but I'm learning a tremendous amount. I love my Bridgman books, but this book for me, I think that it's a great book for beginners, and I love it because it's good for fundamentals that I still have not mastered. I've been drawing for a couple decades now, and there's still elements of the fundamentals that I am still, I'm always trying to go back to those fundamental form, volume, basic anatomy, and trying to refine my understanding of those things. Okay, that was a long aside. Let me come back, and I see Amar had a couple more comments. Let's see here. Amar says he got distracted this year with cryptos and NFTs. Well, you know what? It's not a distraction if you end up doing cryptos and NFTs and making a mint. If you pull down bank from that, and that allows you some disposable income so you can chill out and make artwork down the line, that's not a distraction. That's an investment. I mean, we don't know. That's the weird thing about this world. I mean, we try to do the things. They say that you make goal. If you want to make God laugh, announce your plans to the world. Which, I mean, hell, I'm doing that now, so hell, we'll see where that goes. Let's see here. Amar says, that's what I like. Completion is success in my reasoning. There's a lot of stuff I don't like, but when it's done, I can sigh with relief saying it's done. Yes, time overlaps after a while. It says the more stuff I complete, the happier I am, which means I have more to improve, but I'm happy when a project is done. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. There's a complete logic of crank through and just keep finishing work. And you learn by the act of finishing. I believe in those things, and yet I have not been living that belief. So I don't know if that makes me a hypocrite or whether it just makes me unable to, walking the walk. As I can talk the talk, but walking the walk is more challenging. I think both of those things are true. But yeah, I go back and forth. In this case, I went through such a long period of trying to really level up my skills that now it's not just, I'm trying to perfect something, but when I draw something and I know that it's not about it being perfect, it's that I know I can do better. And I have a hard time letting a piece go when I know that it can be that I can make it better. Not just that it's perfect, it's just I can do better than this. And that's another real challenge. Why do we do work that's not our best work when we know we're capable of doing better? I don't have a good answer for that. If I had an answer, I would tell all of you, and then all of us would make perfect, brilliant, amazing art all the time. You know what? That's my goal, is to find the answer to why we can't do amazing work all the time. That's my goal for the next year. And when I find out, I'm telling all y'all, and then everyone levels up. That's if I ever figure it out. So Kickstarter campaigns. There's a great podcast that I listen to, a creator by the name of Tyler James. He's a creator, publisher, writer, has also been an artist as well. And he has a podcast called Comics Launch. And I have learned so much, not just about the creative process, but about the business of comics from listening to that. And I have been meaning to take a deep dive. It's a podcast specifically about Kickstarter campaigns and crowdfunding. And I've been a fan of it for a long time. I've been telling myself I really need to move into that space because it seems like a great way. My convention sales have begun to plateau over the past couple of years, and even decline a little bit. And I realized that part of that was just, well, I'm not putting out enough new stuff. But I thought I need to start looking at other venues and other ways to get my work out to people. And I thought that a Kickstarter campaign was something I should really look into and really start planning to do. But given the fact that I'm not getting as much actual work done as I would like to, and I understand that the amount of work required to run a successful crowdfunding campaign, everyone says it's like having another full-time job. And I already have a full-time job, and I don't have enough time to make the art that I want to make. And it makes me it's not that I'm hesitant. I signed up for an online course that I haven't completed yet to really help me understand the crowdfunding space better. And I haven't completed it yet because I spent a big chunk of last year, of this year, trying to get the final volume of Morningstar in print, getting it, formatted, having formatting issues, finishing the cover, all of the work that goes into that. And you might say, well, why didn't I do that final volume as a Kickstarter campaign? But I'm like, when I do come to the platform, I want to come to crowdfunding with something that, there's two things. That's the other thing that stopped me. I'm still trying to decide what project I want to do first, because one thing that I want to do is do not an artist edition like the IDW books, but a process edition of Morningstar where I've got all of the thumbnails, the full script, the layouts, and basically just walk people in book form through the entire creative process of making the comic. And I want to do one for volume 1, and if it does well, do volume 2, volume 3, but issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, issue 5, because each issue has over 100 pages worth of material that went into making a 24-page comic. So I was going to do basically a graphic novel of each one. But the other thing that I'm considering doing is a book about outlining, because my most popular YouTube video is a video, and you guys can see this in the video. It's how to write a comic book from start to finish. Someone requested that I show my process of how I actually outwrite my comics, and a big part of that is outlining. And I understand that outlining is not for everyone, but my whole view is like how to make outlining less painful, if not painless. I mean, God forbid I actually make outlining fun for people. I actually love outlining. I really enjoy it. It's my favorite part of the writing process. But my larger point is just simply that that's the thing that I was going to make a Kickstarter campaign about. I haven't even decided, do I want to do the Morningstar process edition, or do I want to do a Kickstarter campaign about my outlining process? So there's just the site. So the two problems I have in terms of diving into crowdfunding, and the reason why I didn't get, I always hate to say my reason for it because reason is not an excuse. Um, but I also have prioritized. That's another thing is I prioritized my health, getting more exercise and more sleep this year than I ever have, and that meant that I've been grinding a little bit less than I have been. My main thing this year has been do something creative every day. So I'm either working on a comic or I'm working on an illustration. I have a little bit of time every day to do something creative, and I get exercise every day, and I try to get 8 hours sleep. And that will put a crimp on your creative hours because a lot of artists, we burn the candle at both ends and in the middle. And I did that for a number of years, and it's rough on you. And I'm really trying to prioritize my health. I mean, if going through a pandemic won't make you prioritize your health, I don't know what will. So that in terms of crowdfunding, that's been kind of my big thing in terms of what's been holding me back from diving in whole hog there. By the way, if anybody has any thoughts on what they would like to see in a Kickstarter campaign from me, specifically process edition versus a book just on outlining, feel free to let me know in the chat or leave a comment on this video if you're watching later. I know I should be posting a proper poll on the social medias to let people give me their feedback. Let's see here. And talking about process, let's see here. Amar also says, I know I can do better, but I'm just lazy or sometimes don't want to spend the extra time on that piece of art because I feel like I have too much other stuff to finish than to focus on one piece. He says, also I'm a bit scatterbrained. No, I get it. I have sketchbooks filled with ideas for paintings that I need to finish or drawings I need to finish. But the thing I also realize is that if I were to look at my entire body of work, like just in terms of the prints that I sell, if I look at that entire body of work and say, well, out of that body of work, how many of these am I genuinely proud of? The number is low. It's not that I'm ashamed of them, but how many of them do I feel are the best things I could possibly do? I really feel like I could go through, like, for instance, I have an art book that I've published, and I'm proud of that art book. But I would say 2/3 of the pieces in there, I could go back and redraw all of them and do better versions now. And I am tempted to do that. Simply because I want each piece. Again, to go back to the ongoing debate, I want each piece not to be perfect, but I want it to be the best that I'm capable of. And I have too much work out there in the world that is not the best I'm capable of. And that's the thing that gets me, is I don't know if it necessarily is worth it to do a ton of work if I'm not proud of any of it. And that is the thing that I think creates both perfectionism in artists, and it can actually, I think that it can be taken to an extreme. I'm trying to find a healthy balance where it's not, I don't want to be self-loathing. I don't want to hate my own work. But when I look at the things that I produce, I'm always thinking this can be better. And I can see the ways in which it can be better. And for me, like, for instance, just in terms of these thumbnails, these endless thumbnails that I'm doing for this one piece, I can see that I have a very strong, what I think is a strong concept. And the structural execution of that concept is not as good as the concept. So it's just a matter of getting the volumes of this piece to match the mood and feel that I've established. And right now, the thing that I'm sketching in here, I'm doing these different twists. Like I've got this where the rib cage is tilted up away from the viewer in this one. I've got it where it's tilted down towards the viewer in the one that's in the bottom right corner. And then I'm going to erase this one. I'm going to try and do one that's a little bit less extreme of both. And I'm trying to just get the feeling right. At the same time, the second one in the top row, I kind of like the fact that she's got this thing where she's got her shoulders kind of almost like in a model's like shoulders thrown forward feel with her hips doing a twist. I kind of like that feel. And I think, you know what, well, here's an interesting idea, Amar. I don't know how many thumbnails you do for your pieces. My thought was for this piece, for the experiment I'm doing right now, is simply instead of drawing one piece as fast as I can, to try and draw like 8 thumbnails as fast as I can. If that makes sense, I was trying to game the system that way. And the only reason why I'm not drawing these thumbnails faster, and this isn't me wanting to get out of talking to you guys, is that it is hard for me to draw with the level of concentration I need while talking at the same time. But you know what? That's also might be my choice, because I can just simply look inward into my mind. And that whole thing that I always tell you, where I try to basically pretend like when I'm talking to you guys, the reason why I don't get stage fright is because a lot of times I think of like I'm letting you guys into my consciousness, like that inner voice, that inner monologue that we all have. A lot of the times when I'm talking to you guys, I'm kind of just pretending that I'm talking to that inner monologue. So I think it is harder to kind of trick myself mentally to be drawing and at the same time be thinking of conversation in that way. Because there is a difficult line to walk where you're actively criticizing your drawings as you're drawing it, verbalizing that criticism out loud, and then acting upon that and correcting your drawing. And that's not even considering checking the chat and checking in with you guys. And normally it actually isn't a problem. The only time it's a problem is when I'm having difficulties with a piece. A lot of times, I would say 99% of the time when I'm drawing while I'm live streaming, I've done it enough that it is absolutely not a problem for me to be talking to you guys while I'm drawing. Every once in a while, I get to a point where I'm working on a piece and it's kicking my ass. And that's the time when it's like, oh, it is hard to do this and talk at the same time. Let's see here. Johnny's in the chat. Hey, how you doing, man? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're in some form of peace. I hope that your holidays were you're able to find a little bit of joy, a little bit of pleasantness. I know that you've been going through some rough stuff lately, and even if you're not through it, it's almost a new year. New Year's time for a fresh start. You know, find some peace, some things that you actually want to do and enjoy. Here's to 2022. Knock on wood. Because you never know. So yeah, I'm still not finished with the third in the row, because I kind of wanted to do, make this a little bit darker. This emphasis between ribcage tilted away versus ribcage tilted towards the viewer. And actually, I feel like there was something interesting with the very last one, but it's still not there. And I think this is the interesting thing right now in terms of these thumbnails, is jumping around and just sculpting and shifting and moving pieces and saying, well, wait, the thing that's not working here, instead of fixing it on the drawing I'm actually working on, let me jump over to a different thumbnail and say, well, let me try that on this other thumbnail. Or maybe I come back and I erase one of these other ones. I will tell you that the second one in the top row and the one directly below it, in terms of a full figure pose, both of those are really strong. I actually even like the one that's on the bottom row a little bit more. I think that the actual pose, what she's doing with her body, is stronger, and that's the thing that I'm trying to get there, is that I kind of have a feeling of a portrait in the very first thumbnail, whereas structurally the rest of her is not portrait ready, the anatomy. And maybe I do need to do one where I just make it a very simple, boring portrait, because that was the thing. I was showing you those Rembrandt studies I was doing last week, and the Rembrandt studies, if anything, showed me that maybe I'm trying to do too much with the body. That might be the case. I might be trying to push this too much instead of just letting her be a simple figure, kind of at rest, upright. So we're at 56 minutes here. So we're almost at the top of the hour, and I'm not going to go long with this one because I've got some family stuff for the holidays to attend to. So if anybody has any last minute comments or thoughts that they want to ask, then feel free to let me know what you think. Now, the last thing I'll wrap up on my end is I didn't really talk about goals. So I talked about where I fell short last year. I'm very, very proud that I got Morningstar wrapped up and done. So 1 out of 3 big goals was completed. That's a good thing. That is a good thing. I'm happy and I'm proud of it. Going forward, well, I will say that my main goal is to start. Well, no, I have 2 goals. To start my next comic, but the goal I probably want to do before that really is, I still haven't scratched that itch in terms of wanting to do a bunch of standalone art pieces just to get it out of my system. And I might even do, like, if any of you are familiar with the artist Katsuya Terada, I really like his artwork, and I have a few art books of his, but I have one really cool called Real Size, which has some of his wall size marker drawings. And what it is the books, the books are it's almost like an artist edition in that the book is not a huge size book. What it is as you turn each page, it represents one panel or one section of a very large illustration. So you might have an illustration that's like 30 by 60 inches or bigger, and every page will cover a section of that thing, so it goes through the whole piece. So it's giving you pieces really large. And I'm not planning necessarily to do a book with that idea, but I am thinking, what if I stopped? I keep talking about the fact that I want to do more work in color, but obviously I do black and white comics. The drawings and my ink work seems to be the thing that people tend to be most drawn to. Why fight against that? Why not just do a book of ink drawings? So I'm thinking about that as another potential project. So for the coming year, start a new comic, do a bunch of standalone pieces, at least complete the course that I signed up for running a crowdfunding campaign. And the thing I really have a hard time with is it's not that I don't want to do the campaign. It's that my creative time is at such a limit already. And I really don't want to spend let me this way. I really know that it takes anything that's worth doing takes planning. And I think the months of planning and getting the costing and executing, getting everything lined up to launch a campaign, that's going to take time away from the daily drawing. And I already miss creating so much that I really, it's not just that I'm hesitant to do it. It's like it's painful for me to take time away from doing the artwork. So I need to find a way to resolve that, to create space for me to do business things for my art while still having time to do the art itself. And that, first off, that's not a satisfying goal because it's a vague goal. That's not really a goal. That's maybe a mission statement, but I don't have an actual tangible object, a tangible objective that I can measure and say, I did achieve this or I didn't achieve that. So I guess really I need to get clarity on what a balance between creating art and marketing and selling my art is. That I think is a good goal. I think that's an excellent goal. And hopefully that will lead me to things like running a great Kickstarter campaign, a crowdfunding campaign, producing more work and being able to get it out to more people. And again, you know what? I mean, people have mentioned to me, and this is not me trying to toot my own horn, but people every once in a while discover my channel and say, wow, man, how do you not have more subscribers? They really enjoy what I'm doing here, what I'm sharing. And how is it that more people don't know about you? I'm open to suggestions. I mean, I definitely appreciate everyone who shares my videos, my channel with other people that they think will enjoy it. I think that I could do a better job of growing my channel. And I don't do and it's not on other people to help me grow my channel. It's on me to do the research. And I haven't been doing as much research as I should. I acknowledge that. But in the midst of spending most of my time struggling with trying to improve the actual craft of the art, I will gladly take feedback and see where I can implement said feedback. I've been hesitant to mention this only because I don't know if we're going to do it or not, but I've been talking with my buddy Carl Altstetter about doing a 24-hour comic. Not on 24-hour comic book day, but just when we are able to clear our schedules, possibly during the holiday week. About just sitting down and just staying up for 24 hours and not live streaming the entire thing, but maybe over the 24-hour period, maybe to come on every 2 or 3 hours and come on for an hour and stream while we're doing it and just go through the night and see where we end up. Now, see, what's interesting here is this last thumbnail that I'm working on right now, I feel like it's coming out a little bit more naturalistic. The pose feels a little bit better, but it also feels more boring. And that's the other thing that I fight, is trying not to make a portrait that feels boring. And there's another thing that I need to look at, and I'm going to probably go back and erase a couple of these other ones. So with all of these I've done so far, let me go bold here. I've gone tilted away, gone tilted towards, And I've done something that's a little bit more neutral. But what I haven't done, other than the original, is to draw something where the entire pose, the camera is a little bit of a lower angle. So we're looking at the entire figure from more of a low angle. Not super low, but kind of low. That's something for me to explore, maybe erasing some of these other ones. I think because I really do like these two poses here, I'm probably going to erase the other two. I'm probably going to erase this. Well, here, let me just erase them now. I'm not going to keep them. So I'm going to erase these now, and I'm going to explore maybe doing the piece less about how much I'm twisting her body and more of doing it from a lower angle, looking up at her. But if I can't get that going, what I might do is, again, I may end up creating another page and then going further. So, you know, this is the challenges. If I get like 7 thumbnails and all of them are kind of in the ballpark, that's when it really gets challenging in terms of what is working, what isn't working. But yeah, I still have to explore the tilts along with that. But see, this is the nice thing about this approach of me saying, all right, I'm working on multiple thumbnails at one time, is that I can keep fleshing out these thumbnails where the focus is how the torso is twisting. But at the same time, I can start sketching out the low angle versions where it's less about the twist and more about the position. And I can kind of see how they all develop, and I can kind of follow which one does seem to be working, which one doesn't seem to be working, you know, where it's going. I see, hey, I see Marshall is in the chat, popped in, sits down, is watching. You know, Marshall, I appreciate you coming and catching my stream. Unfortunately, I usually only go for an hour each week or so. And this is actually the end. You're catching the tail end of the live stream. But I'm going to wrap it up, and then you can go back and hit the replay and go back to the beginning. And hey, definitely hit the subscribe button, and so that way when I do the next live stream, so I do it every week. So next week I'm going to also be on Sundays, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it'll give you a notification when the live stream is going to begin. That said, I do feel bad when I see somebody new come and sit in, and it's right when I'm getting ready to end. So I wanted to at least acknowledge you, tell you welcome, thank you for coming and hanging out before we wrap up. But I was just heading into the final wrap up here of the stream, giving everyone my final comments here, and now we'll move into the closing part here. So, all right, again, for everyone who, if you enjoy what you've seen here, what we're doing, if you want to support this channel, if you want to get additional bonus live streams twice a month, including this week, this Wednesday, we've got Art Book Study Group again, and we'll be continuing with Walt Reads the Figure. There are more than 50 videos already in the Art Book Study Group. So if you become a Patreon subscriber, you don't just get the latest video. You can go in and just click on the Art Book Study Group tag on Patreon. It'll bring up all the previous ones. You can watch. I've got videos on Bridgman. We've got some books on some animal drawing that we've done there. Tons of that. You can read all my comic books for free digitally. It's patreon.com/Jeremy. It's patreon.com/GERIMI. If you'd like to get a free digital sketchbook, you can sign up for my monthly newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. I also include work in progress animated GIFs, blog posts about what I'm working on, my thoughts on the creative process. I include, I call it my media diet, what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what I'm consuming, stuff like these amazing Jack Kirby books that I got for Christmas. You can get all that for free by signing up for my monthly newsletter, newsletter.jeremy.net. And if you go to my Amazon author page, go to amazon.jeremy.net. They'll forward you to the author page. You can pick up books like my first graphic novel, Eye of the Gods, a psychological thriller about a man cursed with visions he cannot control. You can pick up Morningstar Volume 1, Lucifer's Fall from Heaven, told as a Western. It's an 8-issue series. This book contains issues 1 through 4. This volume contains the conclusion, issues 5 through 8. Both of them have extensive back matter. They've got character designs, thumbnails, script excerpts, all of that and more. And you can read, if you go to the channel page for my channel, you can see there's some flip throughs there. We'll actually flip through the books. You can take a look and see what's inside. So, okay, everyone, thank you so much for spending time with me this weekend. I hope you have had a happy, healthy holiday season. I hope there are people bringing love and joy into your lives, that you are living your best life, that you're doing things that you enjoy. And that's it for now. Go be creative.